Hello, class. Let's just talk a little bit about ideas for some of our drawings. A student of mine sent me this picture. Let's just call her Sarah. And she said, I really like this picture, but I don't want to just copy it because I would just be copying it. It would be plagiarism, but I really like it. Do you have any ideas on how I could do something like this without plagiarizing? So my answer to that would be, if you like something, which is great, you can be inspired by other people's artwork. I am all the time. And ideas are never really truly just original. I mean, just out of your head. You think about the things that inspire you. You've probably seen other people do things before that you've said, I like that. I want to do something like that. So my question to her would be, what do you like about this painting? So is it the 50s look? The woman has sort of a 50s hairstyle, it has sort of a nostalgic kind of almost a corny look to it. Or is it the head that's cut into sections in a very clever way and you can see this sort of surreal clouds in her head? Or is it the explosion? You like this kind of mix of sort of almost a regular woman with this explosion inside of her. Or is it the theme? The theme, it says crisis on the bottom of the page, and then the crisis is backwards. I don't know if it was intended to be like that, but it's a backwards crisis, some kind of explosion happening in this woman's head. Or is it the technique? Do you like the way it's painted, the look of it, the colors? So you got to ask yourself, what is it that I like about this? Okay. And if you think, hey, I like several things. I like the technique. I like the theme. I like this idea of the explosion. So how you might experiment is you might say, I'm going to explore that idea of explosions. I'm going to list anything I can think of that has to do with an explosion or a crisis or something that's kind of dangerous, and list ideas. Now you might say, well, I like this split up head idea, but I don't want to copy the same thing. So maybe you might say, well, I'm going to split up some other kind of a head or some other kind of a person. And you might say, well, isn't that plagiarism? Not really. I mean, you're going to split some. If somebody splits up a head like this, doesn't mean they own the rights to split heads. I'll say this: there's a lot of movies that are inspired from each other. There's a movie called Avatar, and it's about an alien world. Well, there's a movie that came out a few years earlier called The Last Samurai, and there's a movie that came out years before that called Dances with Wolves. And all three of those movies kind of had the exact same theme to them, with totally different settings. So think about that. If there's a reason that you like this painting, what's the theme? What's the thing that I like about it? And what features could I take from that and apply to my own ideas? Okay? So, when I talk about original ideas, you might say it's not an original idea. No, you're inspired by somebody else. I was just looking up musicians, and I looked up Justin Timberlake, and it says who influenced Justin Timberlake, and one of the groups that influenced him was called the Eagles. And then I looked up who has influenced the Eagles, and the Eagles credited the Beatles. And I said, who influenced the Beatles? And they credited Chuck Berry and Elvis. So even these great musicians, great artists were influenced by people before them. So I don't know who this artist is in particular, but obviously if you like this, you say, what do I like about it? What aspects of this do I want to incorporate in my drawings? So once you've determined what you like about it, then do a list, do a brainstorm, do sketches, start coming up with ideas, and you're going to stumble on something that's kind of a gem. You might say, I'm going to take this image of, let's say, my mother. This lady reminds me of my mother. I'm going to do a drawing of my mother. I'm going to split her head like this, but inside I'm going to put some different kind of crisis. Now, right now where you got the COVID-19 thing going on, maybe it's related to that, okay? Maybe you like the fact that this woman's on this plain background and she doesn't have any shoulders, or she's kind of floating in the air. Maybe you like that factor. So I guess the answer to the question is, what should I copy about this? Well, you could copy it exactly if you truly just want to work on drawing technique. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you copied it and said it was your own idea, well, that would be plagiarism. You're stealing somebody else's idea. But copy the idea, copy the theme, influence you, and then start brainstorming. And you're going to hit on something that's going to be clever, that's going to be unique, and it's going to be yours. So think about how can you take this idea, this thing that influences you, and make it your own. And I do this all the time. I see paintings and they influence me, and I think, how can I do something like that and make it my own? And it's not an easy task. And it takes some exploring, and it takes some drawing, and it takes some sketching. But eventually, I end up with something, and finally I just pull the trigger, So there's a saying I like, and it's ready, fire, aim. Because a lot of times we go ready, aim, 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 and we never pull the trigger. So ready, aim, but then pull the trigger, fire, and decide what you're going to do and just do it. And sometimes I've done drawings like that, and I got done and they were okay, but that led me to another drawing or another subject and another subject. And pretty soon I've got something I really like that's my own. But it was influenced by somebody else, and there's nothing wrong with that, because true creativity is really, nobody's creating things out of nowhere. You're creating things out of your experiences and things you've seen and things you've heard and things you've done. Nobody lives by themselves. So take these ideas, run with them, experiment, explore them, and try to make them your own. Okay, thanks.